You're all lucky sons of guns. Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish doesn't come out until February 3rd in the UK. So while you guys can all enjoy the not quite so origin story, unless it's a sequel to Shrek, I don't know. I'm still stuck here in the past. But hey, it's trending, so we'll roll with it anyway. What is the best scene in this sequel movie? The most memorable from a typically decent, yet not quite as iconic follow-up to its source material. I never saw this movie before making this video, so I'm less influenced by nostalgia this time. So the scene I want to talk about is the actual origins moments of Puss in Boots' first crime, and how it shaped the direction of the rest of his life. It's the flashback sequence. Now technically this is a full 10-minute segment, so I'm just gonna snip it up to that fateful night. But so that you're not in complete darkness, Puss here is an orphan, arriving in the town of San Ricardo in a basket before growing up in an orphanage and making a friend out of Humpty Dumpty, a friend who fell down the pipeline of crime rather than the pipeline of heroism that gained Puss the title of In Boots in the first place. And though the two have grown a little apart, their bond is still strong, and so Puss wants to live a life of honor.
But Humpty would not give up so easily. I'm in trouble, Puss.
Disrupting kitten Puss in his sleep, Humpty is shown as a looming shadow on his body, a literal display of dragging Puss into the darkness, and the sense of urgency added to the disoriented state of being abruptly woken will push Puss to follow without fully thinking it through. Humpty's even throwing Puss's own boot at him, a non-threat.
They're coming for me. Just get me over this wall. Hurry!
And here again, it's all about urgency and specific action. You can't exactly debate against it if you don't even get the full picture. Which wool? Where to? Just as quickly as Humpty delivers the line, he's already running ahead, away into the thick bluish fog, obscured immediately. Happy to stand on Puss's head to get where he's going as both an oblivious goofball and thematic of not caring at all about him. Leaving Puss all the more in the dark, literally, as he's left blinded by his own hat, and still completely acting out of context. Jumping away again into the fog up top and over the wall, though at least this time we see Puss is more perturbed than just lost. But finally, a moment to think to himself. He has time to wake up. The urgency is gone for a minute after all, so it's time to think things through. Shown at a nice wide angle to show how little action is taking place in the pause. A moment of clarity as Puss is the shining light in the middle of this darkness. But with clarity comes the reveal. Bad times. And just as quickly as Puss realizes, he's thrust into the next steps immediately. The bags of money literally dropping in the same shot as his reaction in the background of darkness. And when spewing out in the wagon is literally lit up from the reflected light of the lantern Puss is holding. So easy to spot the warm highlights against the rest of this blue set piece.
Okay, I got everything. We did it. Come on, let's go!
And without even time to respond, of course, all that urgency comes right back. An audio cue that Puss is immediately in trouble with that whistling, as well as now shrouding his face in shadows a little as he looks away from the deed in Look Out for the Guards. And as Humpty claims his actions, the camera subtly tracks him as he wobbles around so much. Only the last line seeming less friendly and more like a demand.
How could you do this to me?
I did you a favor. We can finally get out of here.
This is the money of the people.
And so our debate begins. Ever tense since we are specifically on a short time limit here. Puss shown up close, a little low angled as Puss takes the more righteous path of agreeing with thievery. Especially since this will ruin his reputation with the town now. And Humpty being looked down upon. He's not being dominating now that the reveal has happened, plus he's the only one of the two actually sitting down. And while the two argue their lines, we see the guards speeding towards them in the fog, interspersed with the dialogue lines to up the intensity as it suggests all is happening at the same time. Not a good time to be static if you want to escape. Although that's literally their horse right there.
You disgraced those boots.
And just like that, Puss is ruined, seeming to scratch entirely on instinct since there's no emotional weight to that claw swing, not looking at the sender or the recipient. It's entirely a neutral swing. But nevertheless, it hits this guy. He's not just some random guard, he's the head, the commandant. You know, the guy Puss saved the mother of last time.
He saved the Commandante's mother.
Save the Commandante's mother.
Shown pretty simply as we only see the legs of the fellow guards in comparison while he holds his face in his hands in pain. Funnily enough, showing Puss's remorseful face again at a low angle. The meaning by the angle has nothing to do with power and just drama in this case, as he is literally standing up on the wagon, and only one of them is bending down in pain, you know?
Comandante, please, I can't explain. Arrest them!
And just like that, Puss is continuously pushed forwards. Full speed ahead and with no room for debate. Camera pulling closer to Puss over his pleas as he attempts to make a justification, as is usually done to build up intensity. Whilst on the commandant, it pulls away. More so to show the next motion of actions as the guards step forward to make the arrests. And widening out on the horse so we can actually see it all. Again, tracking by tilting upwards as the horse does that.
Hurry up! Get to the bridge! Oh, come on!
This shot doesn't do too much. I was thinking maybe it would cut away when a horse runs into the camera or something, but no, they go to the side. It's simply a shot entirely made for function. Though of course the warmth of the torches act as a great opposite to the bluish sky as usual.
You tricked me!
I had to! You left me no choice!
And at least through the dialogue, Humpty is going full manipulation mode, blaming Puss under the guise that he left him no choice when it's very clear who here is in the wrong. Classic emotional techniques from a toxic person. This shot's a nice in-vehicle composition too. And to highlight a little more chaos in downtown San Ricardo, of course the wagon wallops a market stall. Camera lowering down to get closer to the action and highlight the scurriness of the wagon and the soon ensuing horseback guards. But now it's time for a bit of emotion, now that the action's hit its quota.
Mama.
Pequeño.
Pequeño means little or short, small in size essentially. Either way, it's the last moment Puss will be seeing his mother in years, disgraced and forever engraving the memory of her disappointing eyes in that long-term memory bank. She's the only other thing in this world also illuminated in nice warm lighting, and the whispers they have for each other are of an emotion not found anywhere else in this scene, or really this movie. It's like a time capsule of slow motion heartbreak, with a little lick in the score and all. And just as quickly is pushed aside for the dramas of reality. Briefly catching a point of view shot, our car swerves around a tower building, sparks on the wheels for added effect as we crash on course on the final exit path to freedom and dishonor. And in a moment of collapse, we have yet another slow-mo moment, this time not of emotion, but danger. The scene coming in for the climax of its tracks as Puss avoids a sudden death through sheer luck, surrounded by an almost pretty array of gold in the night sky. But the value of money doesn't really matter to him, it's not his to claim anyway.
This is the money of the people!
All that concerns him is where it's going. At least if it's in his possession, he can return it. But at the bottom of the river?
Oh, no.
Puss, I can't get up. Puss!
You can even hear the coins twinkling a little as they fall down that ferocious height. But as a final piece of luck going in his favor this night, Puss is tasked with a choice. Finally, one of his own. Enacting karma for the one person who has taken everything away from him. As Humpty always was, completely useless by himself. And given the chance to give something back to the people and remain unscathed himself, Puss makes his final choice for San Ricardo.
Puss! Save me!
Save yourself.
It's the final move everyone in the audience agrees with, sticking it to this rotten egg and ending in dramatic fashion too. Puss shown at a high angle, yet with a shadow cast over his face from his hat. The official anti-hero bounty hunter we've come to know. Whilst Humpty Dumpty is obscured and covered by a collection of legs and hands. Puss falls so fast you can even hear a whipping sound as he speeds past the camera before pulling as far back for this wide as possible shot just to showcase the sheer scale of this drop. No wonder the coins had time to twinkle. And once again, those torches are great for highlighting the scale as we see the length of this entire group of guards. And Puss is a mere pixel. And though the scene is over, the emotional consequences are not. Cats always hated water, but now Puss has an excuse to brood within it. Name tarnished as he looks away from his home with heartbreak in his eyes. And and also water, a lot of water. Not even trying to swim, just paralyzed from the despair.
I lost everything I cared about that day.
And now there's no warm lighting to be found as Puss just floats along the way, lifted by the one gift of honor he's ever received, those boots of which he got his name. The cat probably can't swim anyway. But hey, at least he didn't snap 230 bones from the impact.
My brother, my honor, my home.
And in montage form, we see some beautiful shots as Puss in Boots walks aimlessly across the vast landscapes, only a small piece of a much larger, all-encompassing world.
All I thought about was the disappointment in my mama's eyes.
And even when swept in only warm colors, it's the darkness surrounding him that continues to cast around him. It's still a sad scene, even if it is technically cozy colors, or symbolic that nothing else around him matters. Or the shot has render distance issues.
And I have been running ever since.
And with that final fireplace set piece, we return back to the present day that wasn't established in this video. This whole 10-minute flashback was a fireside story, so that last shot acts as a gateway grounds to transition us back to adult Puss in Boots. And that was the tale of Puss in Boots' origin story. The scene that defined him years before ever meeting Shrek and Donkey. And you know, it's pretty simple. The story beats itself were good and classic. Your basic betrayal, not as a double cross on doing something bad, but the surprise reveal of doing something bad at all. But when it comes to the thematics of camera techniques used, I'm not so sure something is there. I mean, high angles on the guy giving demands, low angles on the guy being pressured. A lot of this video kind of felt like the curtains were blue for some reason type vibe. Puss in Boots was never a movie I heard being talked about much, but I always put it down to being practically a direct-to-DVD spin-off prequel. I don't have much personal experience, so perhaps people just found it not to be that memorable, especially compared to its mainline franchise. But if that is the case, I can only see how that extrapolates from just this single scene, since I feel like most of these shots were made strictly for function. They do their job, and they tell the story, but there's not much going on beyond that. Most of the heavy lifting of any thematics are in the set pieces, the lighting and environments, and of course the story, not the cinematography. Maybe I just picked a non-outstanding scene, or maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. But a scene strictly for function is still a valid scene, just not the kind we've done before on this changed series. Who knows? Maybe it's something that got a lot more attention in the sequel. You're gonna have to be the one to tell me that, because I don't get to watch this movie for another 2 months. For now, my name's been Dazz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.